You close your eyes tonight, not because sleep comes easily, but because the day has left you hollowed in places you cannot quite name. The screen's glow lingers even after you press the power button. Its ghost floats behind your lids like smoke that refuses to rise. You have been scrolling again, through feeds that promise connection but deliver only motion. Faces you have never met smile back at you from places you have never stood. Their joy looks practiced, filtered, temporary. You keep moving your thumb anyway. It is what the hand does now, when it has nowhere else to go. The room around you is quiet, except for the refrigerator's low, mechanical breathing and the occasional soft click of the thermostat adjusting itself. Everything here is new, or made to appear new. The paint on the walls has no scuffs from shoulders brushing past in haste. The floorboards do not creak with the memory of footsteps that came before yours. Even the bed arrived flat-packed, its pieces numbered and labelled, assembled in under an hour with tools that came in a small plastic bag. You lie on your back, arms loose at your sides, palms turned upward as though waiting for rain that never falls indoors. Nothing arrives. You turn onto your side. The pillow cools your cheek for a breath, then warms to match your skin and becomes ordinary again. You think about how nothing stays cool anymore. Not pillows, not evenings, not even silences. Everything hurries to catch up to your temperature, your mood, your restless pulse. The world has learned to mirror you too quickly. There is no resistance left to lean against. In this quiet, you feel the absence most sharply. Not the absence of people. They are only a message away. But the absence of places that knew you before you knew yourself. You remember a bench once. Not any bench, but the one beneath the old oak at the far edge of the park you passed every day on your way home from school. The tree was ancient even then, its trunk thick enough that 3 children linking hands could not encircle it. Bark furrowed like the face of someone who has lived long and said little. Leaves whispered, even when no wind moved them, as though the tree were always finishing a sentence started centuries earlier. The bench itself was simple, green-painted wood slats bolted to iron legs that had rusted at the edges. Paint flaked in places, revealing older layers beneath. A faded red, then something closer to army green, and then bare grey wood. Splinters waited patiently for summer legs in shorts. Ants travelled the length of it in orderly processions, carrying crumbs or aphids or whatever small purpose drove them. The bench creaked when you shifted. It groaned softly when 2 people sat together. It held the shape of whoever rested there, at least for the duration of their sitting. You sat there often, sometimes alone with a book whose pages you barely turned because the tree's shade felt more like story than any printed words. Sometimes with your grandmother, who came slowly, cane tapping the path like a metronome set to a tempo only she could hear. She would lower herself onto the bench with a small exhale, as though the wood were an old friend receiving her weight without complaint. Then she would begin to speak, not in lessons, not in lectures, but in the slow unspooling of things that had happened long before your birth. She spoke of her own grandmother, who had sat on the same bench during courtship, waiting for a boy who later became your great-grandfather. She spoke of winters when snow piled so high against the trunk that the lowest branches touched the ground like weary arms. She spoke of summers when the park filled with voices and the bench held picnics, arguments, first kisses stolen in the half-light of dusk. The bench listened to all of it. It collected fingerprints in its varnish, initials carved with penknives by teenagers who believed their love would outlast the tree itself. It bore stains from spilled lemonade, from tears no one admitted to shedding, from the slow drip of sap that fell like amber tears in spring. You never thought of it as memory then, and you simply sat. The bench held you. The tree held the bench. Time held everything in a loose, patient embrace. Now you lie in darkness and feel how little holds anything anymore. You have places, apartments, offices, coffee shops with the same logo in every city, but they do not hold weight. They are containers, efficient and repeatable. You enter, you occupy, You leave no trace that cannot be wiped away with bleach and a microfiber cloth. Even your footprints on carpet disappear within hours. The furniture arrives neutral and departs neutral. Nothing accumulates story because nothing is allowed to stay long enough to gather dust. Dust itself has become suspect. People buy machines that suck it away before it settles. They speak of allergens, of hygiene, of starting fresh. But dust is memory made visible. Skin cells, pollen, fragments of paper from books no longer read, fibers from clothes worn on days that felt important once. Dust says, someone was here. Someone stayed. You have no dust. You turn onto your stomach. The mattress yields perfectly, then rebounds perfectly. It is engineered to forget your impression the instant you rise. You press your palm down anyway. The dent fills almost before you can register it. You sigh into the pillow. Why does this restlessness arrive most clearly at night? Perhaps because night used to be slower. Darkness forced pause. Candles burned at a fixed rate. Fireplaces hissed and popped and demanded tending. People sat. They waited for sleep the way one waits for a train in a small station. Without hurry, without elsewhere to be. Now night is only another screen setting. Brightness can be adjusted. Blue light can be filtered. And sleep can be tracked, scored, optimized. You are not optimized tonight. You breathe in. Hold. Let the breath move down into your belly, into your hips, into the places that feel empty. Exhale longer than the inhale. Again. The room listens, or seems to. The refrigerator pauses its cycle as though respecting the ritual. Let us go back further. Imagine, not your grandmother now, but someone much older. A woman whose name has been lost to parish records and faded ink. She walks the same path through the same wood every evening after the milking is done. Her shoes are worn at the heels from years of the same ground. She carries no lantern. The moon is enough, or the memory of the path is enough. She comes to a clearing where an oak already stands wide and heavy, older than the village that grew up around it. Beneath it, someone, perhaps her own mother, has placed a rough bench made from split logs, smoothed only by use. She sits. She does not speak aloud. She has no need. The tree knows her breathing. It knows the rhythm of her heart, because she has come here through girlhood, through childbirth, through the fever that took her youngest, through the slow turning of seasons that brought grey to her hair and stiffness to her knees. The bench knows the precise shape her body makes when grief sits heaviest. Shoulders forward, hands folded, gaze lost somewhere among the roots. She does not ask the tree or the bench to fix anything. They cannot. There is no fixing the child who died, the husband who drank himself quiet, the winters that lasted too long. Instead, the place simply holds her. It does not turn away. It does not demand she explain herself. It lets her be heavy. In those slower centuries, hardship was not abstract. It lived in the body, hunger that gnawed steadily, cold that seeped through chinks in walls, pain that came without warning and stayed without mercy. People died younger. Children died often. Labour broke bones and backs and spirits. Yet the places remained. The hearth stayed in the same corner of the room for generations. The churchyard yew grew wider around the graves it sheltered. The bench under the tree gathered moss and lichen, and the slow patina of time. No one pretended the past was gentle. It was not. It was brutal in its indifference, in its refusal to hurry healing. But it was consistent. You could return to the same spot and find it waiting. Changed perhaps by whether or where, but still there, still willing to bear witness. And you feel that willingness missing now. You roll onto your back again. The ceiling is smooth, unmarked, silent. No cracks to trace like rivers on a map. No shadows that shift with the moon because the curtains are blackout and the streetlights outside are LED, steady and cold. You think of how nostalgia is not longing for ease. That is the first mistake people make when they dismiss it. The past was not easier. It was harder, colder, hungrier, lonelier in different ways. Bodies hurt more without medicine that reached the source. Teeth rotted, wounds festered, grief had fewer places to hide, yet people miss it anyway. They miss it because the world once made room for their smallness. A bench could hold an entire life story without apology. A tree could stand as witness without needing to be useful. A path worn by the same feet for decades said, "You belong here," not because you earned it, but because you stayed. Belonging was not achieved, it was accumulated. Now belonging must be performed. It must be posted, captioned, liked, verified. It must survive algorithms that decide relevance in seconds. Nothing accumulates because nothing is allowed to linger. We are taught to travel light, to let go, to curate, to reinvent. We obey. We become lighter and lighter until we feel as though a strong wind could carry us away. And sometimes we wish it would. You close your eyes tighter. Let the darkness behind your lids become thicker than the darkness of the room. Let your breath slow until it is barely a suggestion. Feel the weight of your own body now. Not the weight that burdens, but the weight that roots. Your heels against the sheet. Your calves, the small of your back. Your shoulder blades, the back of your skull. Let each part settle as though the mattress were earth that has waited centuries for exactly this pressure. You are not floating. You are not dissolving. You are here. And here is enough for this moment. The restlessness that carried you into bed begins to soften at the edges. Not because anything has been solved, nothing has, but because you have stopped running from the question. When did places stop holding our histories? Perhaps when we stopped believing they could. Perhaps when we began to see time as something to conquer rather than something to sit inside. Perhaps when convenience became the highest good and memory became optional. But memory is not optional. It is tidal. It returns whether invited or not. Let it return now. Imagine not the childhood bench, not yet, but a different one. A stone bench worn smooth in a cloister garden somewhere in Europe centuries ago. A monk sits there every day at the same hour. He does not pray aloud. He simply sits. The stone is cold at first, then warms to his body heat. Over decades, the stone learns the precise curve of his spine when he leans forward in thought, the width of his hips, the weight of his folded hands. After he dies, another monk takes his place. Not knowing the history, but feeling it somehow in the way the stone seems to receive him without resistance. The bench does not care who sits. It only holds. This is what you miss. Not perfection, not ease, but willingness to hold without judgment, without deadline, without demand for productivity. You breathe deeper. Let the breath carry you backward, further, to a riverbank where someone kneels to wash cloth against a flat stone smoothed by generations of the same motion. The stone is not special, it is simply there. Yet it remembers every scrape of fabric, every drop of water, every calloused knuckle. It remembers the songs sung while scrubbing, the curses muttered when stains refused to lift, the quiet weeping when a child failed to come home. The stone holds it all. You are not that woman. You will never be her. But something in you recognizes her. Something in you aches for the simplicity of a place that asks nothing except presence. Presence. Not performance, not optimization. Just presence. Let your breath slow further. Feel how your ribcage rises and falls like a boat on very gentle water. No storm tonight, no hurry, only this slow rocking. The contradictions live here too. Nostalgia lies. It softens edges, blurs cruelty, paints golden light over days that were mostly grey. It whispers that everything was better then. It is not true. The past was hard. It broke people. It took without asking. It left scars that never faded. And still we long for places that carried those scars alongside us. Places that did not flinch from our heaviness. Places that let us be broken without insisting we fix ourselves immediately. That is the survival instinct beneath the ache. Nostalgia is not weakness. It is the soul reminding the body. Once you were seen. Once you were held. Once your story had somewhere to rest. Let that reminder settle now. No need to fight it, no need to chase it. Simply let it be. Your limbs grow heavier. The bed no longer feels engineered. It feels like ground. See, you do not need to remember every detail of the old bench. You do not need to return to it. The longing itself is the bridge. Let the longing breathe. Let it soften. Let it become quiet. The stories do not need you to carry them anymore. They have been carried long enough. They can rest. You can rest. The oak still stands somewhere. Perhaps thinner now. Perhaps scarred by lightning or time. But standing. The bench may be gone. Or it may wait, painted over, weathered, holding new initials, new secrets, new weights. It does not matter. What matters is that you remember what it felt like to be held by something larger than yourself. Let that memory sink deeper than thought, into bone, into breath, into the slow turning of night toward morning. You do not need to solve anything. You do not need to become anything. You only need to lie here, held by gravity, held by darkness, held by the quiet certainty that all things pass, yet some things, some places, some feelings, leave echoes soft enough to cradle what remains. The restlessness ebbs like tide pulling back from shore. Curiosity has become reflection. Reflection has become nostalgia. Nostalgia has become something gentler. Dissolution, not loss. Dissolution into stillness. The campfire of your thoughts burns lower. Flames no longer leap. They glow. They pulse. They fade to embers. Red heart of heat beneath grey ash. No wind disturbs them. No hand stirs them. They simply are. And then, without announcement, without fanfare, they are not. Only warmth remains. Faint. Steady. Enough. You drift now. Not into sleep exactly. Into the space sleep comes from. The bench under the old tree is still there. In you. It never left. It waits. A patient, silent, holding the weight of every story, including the one you are living now, including this quiet breath, including the next. Rest. The world will turn without you for a while. And when it brings you back, some small part of it will still remember that you were here, that you stayed long enough,